Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live from lovely and beautiful Cape May County, New Jersey via SHR Media and streaming live on Facebook. I hope that you are all doing well on this fantastic Friday evening. My guest this first hour is Rachel Tenpenny. She is the co-founder and chief visionary officer at Teamotions. I'm very excited to have her. I want to welcome to the Facey Chat Keith Little, Cornelius Amos, John Campbell, DeCarlo Collette, Ron Edwards, Kira Ennis. How are you all this evening? I am so very... Oh, my second hour, I forgot to mention, is... I'm doing really well this evening. My second hour guest is Eileen Durfee. I had her on before and I had some technical difficulties, and so I'm bringing her back so we can complete her interview for the second hour. Eileen Durfee is the owner of Creatrix Solutions, and she's going to talk to us about innovations in health and wellness. So I'm excited to have her on as well this evening. It is actually the first beautiful spring day. How do we know this? Well, there's a couple of indications that spring is here. First indication, there was a giant mosquito roaming around my room the other night, and I'm not sure, but I think that he was carrying little mini knife and fork, just waiting to feast upon my person. That's the first thing. First reason I know that it is spring, and just judging by the pain of the bite that I felt on my leg, I'm just assuming he had a knife and fork. I'm just saying. It was very painful, and he was humongous. I hope it was worth it because now he's dead. Secondly, my voice sounds even more nasally than usual. And yes, Keith Little says allergies. That was the second part that I was getting to. How we know spring has sprung, because I have my first sinus infection of the season. Because it would not be spring if I did not have a sinus infection and my nose did not look gigantic. So that's how we know. It's spring, I am coughing, I have a sinus infection, and I'm nasally and uncomfortable, and my nose is twice its normal size. So welcome to spring, the spring that I've been begging for the last, 2 months, the spring that I've been whining about. This is what I've been asking for. So Mother Nature finally said, hey, you got it. There you go. Clearly, I had forgotten about the mosquitoes and the sinus infections that come along with spring. 2 to 3 in allergy season. And for some reason, I decided it's an awesome idea to have my windows open and that I can walk and run outside despite the fact that I have allergies, and that doctors remind people with allergies that you should keep your windows closed and maybe not be outside. But I get excited and I do it anyway. Anywho, and so here I am, gigantic nose and all. So forgive my coughing, which is inappropriate for radio, and for streaming live on Facebook, and my gigantic nose up in the camera. This is what happens. This is what happens to me in the spring. Please do forgive me. So let's see what's going on in the Money Talk news. I just read something really interesting today on LinkedIn. Which made me a little bit uncomfortable. So we know Wells Fargo has had a lot of problems with, not being very compliant with the little things called the law. And so as part of their settlement with Congress, now they're going to help choose the next CEO. I don't know that I feel comfortable with the government helping out, quote unquote, choosing CEOs for private companies. I'm just saying, I don't think that they should be doing that. That's something we should look into. Welcome to the Facey Chat for the first time, I believe, Robert Williams Jr. Hi, Jacqueline Duran. How are you? Yeah, I don't know if I'm good with that. In fact, I know that I'm not good with that. And I may be missing some details to that article. I have not read the entire article. This was just a blurb on LinkedIn's Daily Rundown, which I quite enjoy, but that's something to look into. I'm not sure that I'm feeling that. Walmart had its web sales grow by 37% in the first quarter. That does not surprise me. I actually joined the Walmart web sales clan in the first quarter. So I somehow added to that because my local Walmart added pickup delivery, added pickup, which is fantastic. If you have not tried it, you need to try it because you can go online and order your stuff. And when they say pickup, it's like pickup. Like you go to park and there's a sign there with your with a phone number and you call and they bring the stuff out to your car. Like I'm all about that because I hate to grocery shop. Like I legitimately hate it. Not because I don't like to shop, but I hate to be cold. So the grocery store is not my friend because I hate cold. And quiet as it's kept, it's really cold in a grocery store. Why does pick up? Yeah, that's right, Robert. Pick up. Like, well, because when you go to the grocery store at the Acme, you have to get out of your car. And when you go to grocery pickup at ShopRite, you have to get out of your car, Robert Williams. So that's why I am specifying that you like really get to like chill when you go to Walmart. Like they have the right idea. That's all I'm saying. That you really just go pick it up and you can sit on your lazy, ample, in my case, behind and just wait for your stuff to come to you. And I'm all about that. So I'm a very busy woman. So I don't have time for the mundane tasks of, food shopping on my own. So it's no wonder then that service picked up by 37% in the first quarter because, quite frankly, when Walmart does things, from on a serious note, when Walmart does things, they do it right. They don't do it halfway. They are very in tune to the way customers like their stuff done. They get it. And that's why they're number one. And they do it in a cost-efficient manner. And so, because it's free, Acme and ShopRite and Superfresh and all those places. I don't even know if Superfresh is still alive. But all those places, they charge $10 for the same service. Walmart does it for free. I think. I should know that. If they do charge a fee, I forget if they charge a fee or not, but it's nominal. It's not a large fee that they charge. Hey, welcome to the Facey Chat, Rob Robinson and Lee Park. It's not a large fee, if at all. But ShopRite and Acme charge like ridiculous to the point where when you're doing it, you're like, is it really worth $10, $15 for me to not do that? And then ultimately, I say that it is because I'm I don't really have time for this. But anyway, you're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest for the first hour is Rachel Tenpenny, co-founder and chief visionary officer of Teamotions. Very excited to talk to her. And then my guest for the second hour is Eileen Durfee, owner of Creatrix Solution LLC. We're going to talk to her about innovations in health and wellness industry. We'll be back in a few moments.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want shelf security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialists remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest for the first hour, I met her through a mutual friend of ours, the one and only Eden Gorton. Eden Gorton Hill. She got married not too long ago in DC, and it was one of the most blessed meetings I have ever had. It was just such a wonderful dinner. She and I and a few other just wonderful women of God that I was able to meet through Eden Gordon Hill. We are, all of us were blessed to have Eden as our publicist at one point in time, and I'm just so happy that I'm able to have her on the show today. She's the co-founder and chief visionary officer at Teamotions, and you'll learn all about what Teamotions is in a few minutes. She's a teacher, speaker, and writer. She is very candid about her journey, which you will prepare yourself to hear about her journey and the role T has played in comforting and healing her, and how she was able to turn it into a business. She's been on several podcasts, and she's also co-founded a retreat called Retreat Hope for mothers who have been through the same ordeal that she's been through, and I'm going to let her tell you about that. I don't want to. I really want her to tell it. Rather than me telling it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the one and only Rachel Tenpenny. How are you, darling?
I'm great, thank you.
Well, please do tell the audience a little bit about your background and a little bit about your story and how Teamotions came to be.
Well, before I was an entrepreneur or had a business or was living this life, I was a mama. I had a 2.5-year-old son, and I was pregnant with twin daughters. At the time, I was also married to who is now my ex-husband. He is still currently is, and was then, a pilot in the United States Marine Corps. So we were living our lives, growing our family, doing all the things that you do. And my twin baby daughters were born prematurely and had every conceivable complication imaginable and did not survive. My daughter Ellie lived for 7 days, and then my daughter Aubrey lived for 13 days. And it was one of those moments where within 2 weeks my life went from planning my baby shower and packing my bag to head up. We were living in San Diego at the time, to head up north to where I grew up in the Ojai Valley to celebrate a baby shower because my son was first, and now I was having 2 girls, and I needed girl things. And then 2 weeks later, I was planning a funeral, and I was sitting with a giant binder trying to pick the font for my daughter's headstone and trying to decide if I wanted dark granite or light granite, and sitting with a map to try to pick the plot that we wanted them buried in. And then I just remember thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how you live after this. And if you do live, how do you ever have a good life? And the day of my daughter's funeral, I looked myself in the mirror and I said, Rachel, you have to figure this out. You have to figure out a way. Because you have a little boy that's depending on you, and you're young. I was only 28 at the time, had a lot of life ahead of me. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I will figure out a way. And when I figure out a way, I will help other people figure it out too. And that's sort of how it began.
Exactly. And so how did you, now this is a story, not a story, this is real life. This is one of the many things that we discussed while sitting around a table at dinner in DC with, I think it was 5 other women, including myself and Eden. And we all shared our stories. And of course, there was a dead silence, which you can't have on the radio, which is why I'm still talking. And as you continue, we were talking about our businesses, and so you were telling us how Teamotions started. So how does that parlay? How does that tragedy and that parlay into a business? How do you bridge that? How does that happen?
So T became the one comfort that seemed to really nurture me, really keep me grounded during that extraordinarily difficult time. I didn't know what to do, but I was committed to navigating my way through. But for a while, you kind of go into survival mode. And tea was the one thing that I could depend on to be quiet, comforting, soothing, warming, consistent, all the things you need when you're hurting. And my sister came to visit me. She came and drove down, and I was on probably my 4th cup of tea that particular morning. And you could always tell what my emotional state was by how many cups of tea I had in a day. You know, the more cups of tea, the harder I was struggling. And so even at 10 in the morning, I'm already on cup number 4. And I'm sitting in this big brown armchair, holding my cup of tea, honestly just trying to keep it together. Sometimes it was 1 minute at a time. Sometimes it was 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. And my sister sat down next to me in the armchair and said, "Rachel, I wish there's something that we could put in your tea that would make you feel better." And that was that aha moment, that epiphany. And I looked at her and I said, that's exactly what we need to do. I will figure out what you can put in tea to take its already soothing and healing and comforting properties to the next level and actually create something that you could drink that would help with emotional well-being and healing. And that sent me on a direction to figure out how to do that. And about a year later, it took me a year to create all the teas. I had an entire line of teas blended with herbs called adaptogens that have the ability to actually support you emotionally. So they have natural stress support and emotional well-being properties. They're safe, effective. Our blends are also award-winning, so they're gourmet. They're absolutely delicious. They're better than any tea you've ever had. To create a product that actually could help you heal when you needed it.
I love that. And what I really love about this is you automatically thought, I want to seek something good. Because under your circumstances, there are many people who would turn to something bad to put in their tea. Or who would turn to some other substance to dull the pain. And I don't think there are many people who would judge that because they would say, well, can you blame her? You know, she lost she lost her baby.
Yeah, trust me, that was the first time in my life where I understood why people stick a needle in their arm. You know, I didn't do that. I didn't turn to drugs or turn to alcohol, but it made perfect sense to me why people do, because I had never been in that much pain in my life. But not only wasn't I in a ton of emotional pain, but I didn't know how to get out of it. Unfortunately, we don't live in a society that has a manual or has a method that says, you know, I was even really heartbroken because I felt like people who had gone before me didn't come back to help lead me through. It was sort of this, you know, we're every man for themselves. I had to figure it out myself, so you have to figure it out yourself mentality. And I was so wounded by the lack of compassion, by the lack of mentorship. You know, I knew I wasn't the first woman to ever lose babies, yet I felt completely all alone. So, yes, I was very aware of how hard it is, but I knew there had to be a better solution, and I was going to find it.
I want to talk for a minute about, we got into this conversation when we were in D.C. about how, and you just touched on it a little bit, about how, you know, some of the things that even some of some of the walls you ran into with even some Christians, some of the things that they would say to you in the aftermath of that.
Right. Well, unfortunately, society is very confused, and in a lot of ways, the church is the most confused when it comes to dealing with pain. Because pain is scary, and pain is confusing, and pain triggers, you know, my pain was triggering other people's pain. And being a Christian doesn't automatically equip you with how to handle pain. And so the default is to say the things that you've always been told or that you've always heard. God's got a plan. It's God's will. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. Practice gratitude. Try to be thankful for what you do have. At least you already have a child. Well, you're still young. Pray that God will give you another baby. All these ridiculous things that have absolutely nothing to do with grief and pain, and are just ways to sort of sprinkle well-being pixie dust on people and run the other direction and hope that's enough.
Well-being pixie dust. Wow.
It's true. For whatever reason, it makes people feel better that they at least tried to do something. And if they feel like if they can give you a platitude or a cliche, then at least they tried. They didn't just turn the other way right when, you walked up to them.
That is the realest thing I've ever heard. But God, I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's just it's the realest thing I've ever heard.
And unfortunately, we all do it. And that's part of the reason why I could have compassion for people, because I, too, could remember a specific time, actually, in my past where I invalidated somebody else's pain simply because I didn't know what else to do. I was uncomfortable. I was scared. It felt overwhelming to me, and I didn't know what to say to them. So I gave them some lame platitude that I had heard that I thought maybe is what you're supposed to say in that situation. And I remembered seeing the pain on their face. And many, many years later, I found myself in that same situation, recognizing that even well-intentioned people can say the wrong thing. What we really need in society is more compassion and more education. We don't need more judgment and more criticism and more correction, because a lot can be accomplished by simply educating people in love, because most people are well-meaning. Most people actually do want to help. They just don't know how. Just like I didn't know how to navigate grief, nobody else around me knew how to help somebody in pain. So when I teach and when I write and when I work, I always make sure that I talk about both sides. If you're the one hurting, I help you navigate through the pain. And if you're the one who cares about or loves the person that's hurting, I help you understand what is helpful to them, what is not helpful to them. And then I also help you engage in self-care so that you can go the distance with them. And if you really want to be present and helpful, how to actually do it. So there's two sides of that coin.
That makes perfect sense. So how is Teamotions, explain to me how the product came to be. How did it turn into a business, and how is the business going? You said you and your sister turned it into a business. How did that come about as a business? Who handles what? How does that work as a business? Because you were not some entrepreneur and you just added this to your repertoire, right? Like it was just like some other business that you added to your, No,
this was my first business, and largely the only reason why any of this happened is because my sister was involved as well when it comes to business and operations, and she is definitely the mastermind behind all of that. I definitely was much more involved in the actual creation of the product. To this day, I'm still involved in creating any of our teas, as well as the quality control of all of our teas, making sure that they're effective, that they're delicious, that they're beautiful. Where she does all of the marketing, she handles all of our inventory, all of our sales, accounts payable, accounts receivable, where I always did like front of house of all of our press, all of our writing, creating, like I would create the material and then she would market it, just like I created the teas and then she marketed them. So, we made a good team, a really good team, because as it's one thing to have an idea, it's another thing to actually make it into a business. Not all ideas make good businesses, and not all products sell themselves. There's an actual method to the madness. So we were very clear from the beginning kind of how to divide our contribution, and she had her list and I had my list. We've also had a ton of evolution in the company. So once we actually got the products and then we branded them, created the labels and actually we're ready to sell, we built a website. And what's amazing to think about is when we started doing this 8 years ago, Instagram didn't even exist. Social media marketing was barely a thing. Facebook was still brand new. We actually had to hire a coder to build our first website because there weren't even these drag and drop, e-commerce websites yet.
Right. There was no WordPress or Wix or any of that stuff yet.
No, nothing. Like we had to kind of do it from scratch. The majority of our startup capital went into building our website. Just straight out creating something that could actually take credit cards and send an invoice to an order, keep track of everything. Like it was quite the undertaking. Things have evolved so quickly and so fast. Now we have a completely new way to reach our audience, a completely different way to influence our user, to educate them, to interact with them. So in a lot of ways, it's very exciting because we're getting the access that we want. But in different ways, the evolution that's taken place, how quickly we've had to evolve and stay on top of how things are changing has been mind-blowing. It left our heads spinning. We've had 3 major shifts in our company, just trying to make sure that we're evolving with what our customers want and the best way to meet the needs of our customers.
That's really amazing. But God bless America and capitalism. No, I'm sorry. You're gonna. No, because when you think about just how the company came to be, and it's just such a tragic thing to have happened with, and I wish that it never happened and it didn't have to be a Teamotions, that there was some Teamotions, that there was some other way that it could have come to have passed, obviously. But it's just incredible that is how it came to be, and that you can make an actual business out of it and make money. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, I think we all have those moments in our life where something takes place, something happens, and we can't undo it. It is. My girls are dead, and they are not coming back. And that is a reality that I live with every single day. Those sweet little girls who didn't even ask to be born barely even got a shot, and they died. And it was traumatic and tragic, and it broke my heart. But there was no way to undo it. So I had a decision. I had to decide, am I going to choose a response that leads to healing and hope and compassion and outreach and impact? Or am I going to choose a response where I curl up in a ball and I just be mad and sad and wounded and hurt and paralyzed for the rest of my life? And each one of us face that decision. It might not be my exact situation, but things will come, if they haven't already, in our life where we have to decide our response. Not our reaction, our response. And that response has the ability to bring healing, to bring commerce, to bring growth, to bring beauty from ashes, or that response has the ability to keep us stuck, keep us wounded, bring other people down with us. No man is an island. All of our choices affect other people. They affect our own heart.
They do.
And when you can't go back, you can only move forward, then you have to decide which way you're going to go, right or left.
Indeed.
And I just decided that I want my little girl's legacy to be something beautiful and not just a broken, sad mom who couldn't ever get herself together.
Oh, now that's beautiful. I have a question in the Facey chat. I know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer it because we discussed it at dinner that night. Doug Poss, who's a very big fan of the show, always watches. I call him my unpaid publicist. Wants to know if you are still mad at Christianity. Was his question? I guess.
No, absolutely not. I'm not mad at Christianity, nor am I even mad at Christians. To be honest, I never got angry. If anything, it was more shocking, and I realized, okay, we need to figure out how to solve this. How do we get better education? How do we talk more honestly about grief and pain? How do we stop using cliches and platitudes and misapplied scripture to just sort of erase people's heartache and actually sit with them and be there for them and let them know they're not alone, and move forward instead of, just moving on. So no, I was actually never angry. I think if anything, I was just surprised. It, was one more shock on top of other shocks, and that being said, there are some phenomenal Christian people in my life who were absolutely there for me, made an enormous difference in my healing journey. And I believe tons and tons of those people exist. So I would never put, the entire church or all of the faith under one umbrella. No, but my faith is strong. My faith is real. I always had a relationship versus a religion. I know that my Jesus was grieving with me. And when we understand the true father heart of God and know that that was never God's will, that his heart broke when 2 little innocent babies died, and he grieves with us, we understand what is really going on. And it's not flippant, and God didn't just step back and say, well, someday you'll realize why this had to happen. From the very dawn of time, he was making a way because of the brokenness of this world, because innocent babies die, because illness and tragedy and violence occurs. He's making a way. We just haven't seen the end yet. We're still in the middle. But I know how this story ends. I'm not the exception. Many other people will not be either. But no, I'm not mad at the church. I never was. If anything, I'm just here to just help equip people to be better at it so we can stop hurting each other and start helping each other.
Indeed. Indeed. Doug is a very strong man of God, and I'm glad that he asked that question, because I'm glad that he asked that question. And I guess if you don't know if you weren't on the other side of that conversation that we had at dinner that night, maybe you could get the impression that maybe you were mad at Christians. So I'm glad that was a very insightful question that Doug asked, which is not unusual for Doug as a very strong man of God himself. So I'm glad that he asked it, and you certainly gave just a very strong answer. And I think that's what we ended up talking about that night. And I am still, just the way you articulated your answer that night and the way you did just now, I am just as impacted as I was that night. And I was like, I've got to have her on my show. I said, my listeners are going to just benefit so much from hearing you speak. And I was like, I've got to have her on the show. Doug says the effect of evil crushes, and it does.
Well, I think as Christians, one of the things, if we're faith-based people, one of the things we have to be very careful of is calling bad things good, saying that all bad is somehow good in disguise, that that we mistake the verse that God is working all things for good as meaning there is good in all things. And there isn't. There is evil in this world. There is, Satan's will and the human will that is not always in line with God's will. Well, obviously Satan's will never is. We live in a broken world, but there are factors that are going to cause loss and wounds and pain and disappointment. And if our only response is to say, well, this all inevitably leads to something good, then we are missing that is not true. That we decide the value that these terrible things have for us because we have a fork in the road where we can choose our direction. We can choose forgiveness, faith, hope, love, or we can choose bitterness, blame, anger. And anger isn't always bad, so I know it gets put in that category, but not all anger is bad. And that's not what I'm saying. But that's what I try to help people understand is when you tell someone, this is all for your good, or it makes it sound like, well, God made it for your good, or he even allowed it for your good.
Right.
Where in some cases, first of all, it's way more complicated than that. But in some cases, that would be an oversimplification of a very complicated situation, and we miss the fact that God is grieving with us. He is not okay with what is going on.
Right.
His heart is tender towards us. The whole reason why Jesus came was to serve. One of the core characteristics of God is his servant heart. So he doesn't step back. He doesn't remove. He doesn't say, deal with it, accept it. It's fine. Someday you'll figure it out. He understands that every cell in our body is broken. We are aching for the sin that is in the world that just robbed us of our loved one, robbed us of our health, robbed us of our finances, robbed us of whatever it took from us. God takes loss seriously. And if we come across like he doesn't, if we tell other grieving people, you just don't get it. It's not really that big of a deal. You just can't see what you're supposed to see. You're missing the father heart of God, because if God can grieve, then we should be able to grieve.
Indeed. I love that. And that is why I was like, oh, this, I've got it. I was like, Rachel, your card now. like, if I was like, you got to be on my show. You are just fantastic. Listen, we're going to take a brief break, and I want you to tell the audience when we get back on the other side of the break about your new adventure. That you have, have a new adventure coming up, a new business venture, something that you were talking about a little bit also at the dinner. And I as soon as you told me about it today, I was like, yeah, I love this for her. This is feeling awfully good. I love this for her. We're going to take a brief commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. We're with my guest, Rachel Tenpenny, co-founder and chief visionary officer at Teamotions. We'll be back in 1 second. Okay, a couple of seconds.
Service media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
maybe some news and entertainment?
and all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lynn Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lynn himself, Jeff Dunnis. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. And Lynn Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lynn Radio Show with Jeff Dunnis.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and we are with Rachel Tenpenny, the co-founder and chief visionary officer at Teamotions. Welcome back, Rachel. So we were talking about Teamotions, and Doug very insightfully asked if you were still mad at Christianity, which of course you were not, and you very tactfully and quite frankly powerfully explain to us all the reasons why not only were you not mad at Christianity, it never were. Frankly, I feel like explained. I apologize for laughing. I have a bunch of comedians in my Facebook live stream right now. That's why I'm laughing. But very powerfully explained to us why we shouldn't be. Just so you know, I often drink out of a coffee mug while I am live streaming, and occasionally there are debates about what is in my cup, and that debate has ensued for this show. And leading right now is Boone's Farm and green tea. So Boone's Farm wine, green tea, and bourbon. It's water, but it's usually coffee. But one of my friends usually says Irish coffee, some kind of alcohol, wine. I wish it were wine, but it's not. It's water.
Well, I think it should be Teamotions in there.
It should be.
You missed an opportunity.
I did miss an opportunity. You're so right. And you know what? As nervous as I am and as much calm as I need by the end of the day. And by the way, this coffee mug is a gift from my sponsor. As long as I have the opportunity, as long as we're talking about my mug, it's a gift from my sponsor, Biz Social Touch. If you like this mug, it's a beautiful mug. You see that it says the Business Diva Melanie Collette on it. You should get in touch with the one and only Mr. John Campbell to get one of your own and other wonderful promotional items at John Campbell at cardsforbusinessnow@gmail.com and get yourself one for your own promotional well-being. Okay, you should definitely get one of these. Isn't it cool? It is really cute. My sister came over today, and I showed her my mug, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute!" I was like, "Isn't it? I love it." It's very cool. He's in the Facey chat if you want to get more information about his business, and I'm sure he will post a link there, which he just did. And while I'm thanking sponsors, as long as I'm doing that, you should also check out the Tax Mama, aka Eva Rosenberg, and Robert Houston at MrCreditRepair.biz, all sponsors of the Business Diva Money Talk with Melanie, and I thank them for sponsoring me. Now, now that I got those live reads out of the way, no, I really do appreciate my sponsors. It's really cool to have people ask if they can pay me to promote their stuff. Like, really? You want me to do that? Sure. So tell us about your next adventure, please.
Yeah, well, so I feel like I need to put a little bit of context or background in it. You know, the whole reason why my sister and I created Teamotions because we believe that such an important part of healing is to provide people with tools. And those tools need to be tangible, actual things you can participate in, things you can do. Not everything can be just an idea. Like walking ourselves through healing requires sort of these stones of remembrance that we cast. And when we create rituals in our day where we actually pour a cup of tea to check in with ourselves, when we nourish our bodies with the things that it needs in order to stay strong enough to keep moving forward, when we consider, you know, all of the factors and facets that go into healing, like tools are very, very important. So if you have stress in your life, if you are going through an enormous transition, if you need more emotional and physical support, I highly encourage you to try our teas because they're not just beverages. They're powerful tools for emotional health and well-being. But as I've worked in this industry for over 8 years now, what I've realized is tea is not enough. We still need more tools. There are things missing that are preventing a more effective method through healing after loss. And so that's what my next business venture is. My sister and I sat and talked about it, and she is so capable of, you know, handling the company that she is going to take Teamotions and grow it into the business that she wants. And I am going to spend my time and energy focusing on creating more of these healing tools, more retreats, more seminars, actual tangible things that will help people get a grasp, create a map, create a plan through healing their heart after loss. Have you ever heard that term, like hurt people?
Oh, indeed. Indeed, yes.
Well, I believe that healed people heal people. And so my next business is going to be about helping people heal because I believe that the more people we help heal, the more they will pay it forward and help other people heal. And maybe we can create a world where there's more healing in it than hurting.
Rachel, John Campbell, who's one of my sponsors, said in the Facey chat whenever he wasn't feeling well, his mom always gave him tea and toast. Isn't that sweet? Did you?
So sweet. And because we know that, right? And instinctually, we know how comforting a cup of tea is. Like, nobody has ever tried to argue with me or claim that this was a bad idea. Everybody knows deep down in their soul that when you need emotional comfort, when you need care, you pour a cup of tea.
You do. And I'm going to say something about you, Rachel. You were saying hurt people, and healing people, heal people. Your energy is healing. Like you know how they say people have a calling. I believe this is your calling. So when you told me this prior to the show, you know, but you know our pre-production interview, 3 minutes before we went on air, when I said I love this for you, that is because that energy just feels right for you. It just feels like it is just such, it is the perfect shift for you. Just having been in your presence once, it feels like the perfect thing for you.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as more confirmation. You know, it is, and I am very passionate about this. I will definitely, you know, and I don't think sometimes in life we have to ask, like, am I good at this? Sometimes we just have to know, like, this is what I love, and this is what I'm willing to become good at to be effective, because that's what matters to me. All I care about is, can we do this effectively? Because one, I know what it feels like to be broken. And I know how difficult it is to climb out of that pit. But every day I look around and I see people that are hurting, and I wonder, are they hurting more than they need to because they don't have the tools and the support that they really need, that they deserve, quite frankly? Human beings deserve better, and I think we can give them better.
And I think that we see some people that are in the healing business, if you will, and you can tell that it's buffoonery, to put it nicely.
I have not heard that word before.
Well, you have to use you got to use clean baby words. That's really too nice a word, but this is a family show. So it's too kind a word for what it really is. But you really are authentic in your healing and what you're saying. And for you to be authentic in that healing is just so important. And so, I really am loving this, loving that. And I know you're going to be successful.
Oh, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
I do. I know it's going to be successful, and I know you're going to help a lot of people, and I know you want to help a lot of people genuinely, and I know you're going to, because you're talented. I felt a little bit healed just by listening to you that night in DC.
Oh man, thank you.
It was just such a blessing. It was.
That whole night was amazing.
That whole night was incredible.
By that evening.
It was. I was like, what am I doing here?
That's exactly how I felt. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I'm here. It was that amazing.
But that's the magic of Eden. She's magical. She's like a little elf.
I know. No, she is great. I mean, she got me on Fox News, that girl, when I was nothing. I was a nobody. She can do anything. Opens doors.
She does. She's like a little fairy, a little elf or something. She's magical, that woman. She is amazing. Well, listen, before we close this hour of the show, tell us where we can get your teas, where we can look for you when you start your new program, wherever you are in that process. How can we follow you on social media and all that good stuff?
So you can find our teas on our website, which is teamotionstea.com, all one word. And you can follow us on Instagram at Teamotions and Facebook at Teamotions as well. So that's easy, just Teamotions, everything. If you even Google Teamotions, we're the only thing that pops up. As far as following me into this new business venture, jump onto my personal social media. My Instagram account is the best way, which is Rach Tenpenny. It's RACHTENP. So no numbers, all letters. You can find me there, follow me, and I've got quotes and insights and let you know about events. And when my website's ready and I launch it, you guys will be the first to know on Instagram. And that's pretty simple. That's where it is right now. And the only favor I can ask is try our teas. They'll change your life. And if you know of anybody who's stressed or hurting or overwhelmed, please let them know about our teas. They are a remarkable tool. They are effective and they are delicious. You actually enjoy them. It's a wonderful way to just take better care of your heart, one cup of tea at a time.
Indeed. Thank you so much for being on the show. I hope you'll come back.
I would love to be back. Thank you for having me.
You were fantastic, as I knew you would be. Thank you so much. And lots of love reactions in the Facey chat. You're the best.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great night. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. That was the end of the first hour with Rachel Tenpenny, co-founder and chief visionary officer at Teamotions. Our second hour, Ellen Durfree, owner of Creatrix Solutions, LLC, will talk to us about innovations in the health and wellness industry. Very interesting thing she has to say about new cures for different kinds of ailments and diseases, just new technologies and things that are coming out. I want to get tea. Oh, John Campbell says he wants to give tea. Yeah, you have to check out Teamotions. It's some good stuff. I actually have some. Maybe I'll drink some tonight and put some Tito's in it. No, I don't know if she would sanction that or not, but I'm gonna. Terrible. You didn't hear me say that. I didn't say that. Water for me while I'm on the air. Listen, I'm not Diamond and Silk. I can't get away with that. I'm much more, demure. I would get in trouble anyway. Apparently they don't have people that monitor them and tell them, that they have to be good all the time. All my friends tell me that I have to behave myself. So if I even use a wine glass on air, I get in trouble. One time I used a wine glass that had grape juice in it, and I got in, all this trouble. All my friends and big brothers were, messaging me and, was like, that's not your brand. You can't give the appearance that you drink wine. Really? So apparently I have this good girl image, which... Who said that? No, I'm kidding. I am a good girl. Anyway, you're listening to for the most part. Kinda. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. We're going to take a brief break. Well, actually, this is kind of a long break where we listen to the rest of the commercials. You go get a drink or something and come back. Well, and, listen to the commercials if you want to hang out and listen to commercials while you click on other stuff. You want to listen to the other show commercials and stuff like that. And then come back for the second hour of the show. That's what you want to do. Okay, so I'll be back. There's a time to be a good girl, and there's a time to be a bad girl. No, you didn't hear me say that either. Just forget that. I don't know what I'm talking about. I swear this is water. See, I've already said, I'm going to go ahead and go into my commercial break now. Before I get myself in any more trouble.